Hi, this is Gail Minogue again, your friendly numerologist, and I'm introducing you to my new cast member, and this is Bentley. And Bentley we've had Bentley all of 3 months, a beautiful full pug we got from the shelter the end of December, who's put on a lot of weight and needs to go on a diet, but he's the most loving dog. So he's our pug, and this is Bentley. I don't know how long he's going to sit in my lap, but I thought I'd do our session today out in the backyard. You can hear my little pond and waterfall. You may also hear an airplane go over. We are in a backyard in Los Angeles on a beautiful day. We're all hiding out from the coronavirus. And I wanted to just bring you up to date on some ideas that going forward we could probably expect in the society going forward, say for the next 4 years, because I think that's about how long this is going to take to make the corrections in the economy and in the also where we feel comfortable returning to some routines. Nothing is going to be normal like we had it before. Of course, we're going to come home and have our Trader Joe's, and we're going to have all our favorite large places. A lot of small places will go out of business. And even though they may have gotten an infusion of some cash from the government, one of the things you should realize that the government will have to keep infusing cash right into the fall of 2020. And you expect that perhaps a vaccine maybe will be discovered in the next year and a half. Usually a vaccine takes much, much longer. So I would not plan on that. If it happens, it's fabulous, but I would give it a longer term than 18 months. Also, I would expect that you will have more effective treatments than they have now. And I have some personal experience with, quote, treatments, as my husband is in the hospital with COVID-19. He is in isolation. He's been there for a few weeks. He is recovering, and it was very fortunate for his age. He caught it in a nursing home. He's the classic case of probably going to die from it, and he did not. In fact, he improved every day and was off of oxygen after 4 days, which is, I would call it a miracle, since he was in the nursing home to begin with because of a bad fall that resulted in 3 brain bleeds. And so he should have died on that one. He also has been treated for brain melanoma for the last few years. He should have died in that one. And now COVID-19, he is symptom-free and waiting to get released. But in order to do that, you must produce 2 negative readings within a 24-hour period. And so far, he's been unable to do 2 negative readings in a 24-hour period. So I'm very familiar with the treatments on COVID-19, and sort of what they're throwing at is, hopefully this works. And really, basically, I asked the doctor, what do you think saved him for his age, that he should have not been saved? Everything was against him. And he said, basically, it came down to genes. If you have the genes in your system that you were born with, even elderly will beat this. But if not, if you don't have them, you usually will succumb to it once you get into your late 70s, 80s in particular. And so I'm very encouraged. We all want him home, but he can't come home until he gets 2 negatives in a 24-hour period. So that's one thing that I've been working with, and I've also been paying close attention to not just the numbers, because they're going to change every month. I would totally encourage you to stop listening to these daily briefings from the president or daily briefings from a governor. Follow it every so many days, because the secret to this disease is testing. Testing, testing, testing. And when my husband got to Cedars, where they did this miraculous work with him, they didn't have enough nasal swabs. And this is a major, the largest hospital in Los Angeles, and they didn't have enough nasal swabs to treat the particular COVID patients. I think Bentley's going to leave me. I was lucky to have him sit as long as he did. He rather would sit on the cool dirt or the cool lawn. That's where he is. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things. Number one, stop looking for turnarounds. There's a lot of states right now are opening. They want to return to business as usual. It's not going to return to business as usual. First of all, the monies that people have gotten are not what we call stimulus money at all. It's actually money to make up for what was lost. So it goes to basic survival stuff, and so do the loans for the small businesses. And many of these businesses will not be able to make it even with the small loans. So the government is going to have to throw more money, probably after the summer into the fall, at this situation. Right now there's balking about it. We don't want to let I think McConnell from the Senate was talking about let the states go bankrupt. Well, here's a figure that I'll throw at you. 60% of the GDP in America comes from 3% of the states. 3% of the 50 states control 60% of the GDP. Can you imagine if this 3% went bankrupt? Goodbye, the economy. So this is a kind of a nutty idea. So what's happening is federal government has less and less critical, authentic, or credible information going out. Either it's on the wrong figures for testing or how much equipment was available. And there was so much misinformation and mistrust that the people have looked to the governors and the locals to really control. So what's taking place, and you're going to see this more, is a literally breakdown of a centralized control of government in the U.S. And it had been building for many, many years, the central control of the government. And now it's going to the states because they seem to appear to be more honest, truthful, and on the front lines versus the federal government, which is spewing out misinformation and changes by the day, and also mishandling of the situation, starting late and then giving us bogus figures for what was really going on. So the secret to getting everybody moving again is testing. And you want to kind of plan on a 4-year window for this all to turn around. And what does that fit? Remember, I've been saying this huge transit, this 16-year transit that started in 2008 would go to 2024. And what this pandemic has done is accelerated the changes that are required in the 20s for the major changes to transform the way the world operates, and particularly how the United States operates, because it's a catalyst of change for the world. So this is a remarkable period. It's pretty hard because it's frightening and scary and reduced our lives to being kind of locked down. But in many, many ways too, we're getting to do things we never thought we would do, like sit and process our own thinking or taking care of stuff that we never paid attention to. And so we're going to examine freedom and what are the trade-offs we're willing to make, such as privacy, to our freedoms. How important were their freedoms? Because we've always vowed that freedom is our most important thing. So these big changes, 2008, we had the financial crash. That was to start the ball rolling. Changes, that more control by the corporate and government control from the centralized, and now a breakdown of that. And you're seeing that help and relief is actually coming from the states and private industry and not from the federal government. So this is where it's going to also expand, where you will see more money having to come from the central government, but more control coming, more of that they call the federalist system, more local, more trustworthy, etc. And I'm not saying, don't quote me in saying the whole group is trustworthy, because basically we see the corruption, both parties, pretty awful, and how basically the people have tried to just stay in power versus assist the people. We're also seeing the safety nets were just not in place, and those figures are pretty awful. So the economy was vulnerable before this virus hit, very vulnerable. And we had no sick leave for a lot of people, millions. And we had no health care, no savings, no emergency savings. I mean, we've all aware of this, but it was completely ignored. Now it can't be, and going forward it won't be. So we're going to look for more to be rescued to change this, and it's going to take 4 years. Plus, The supply chains we thought about, they've been broken. We have to create new supply chains, and that because even if you open up a state like Ohio, you're going to need parts to do whatever machinery you're doing, but where are you going to get that part? That's the supply chain. If that place doesn't have it where you need it, how are you going to keep Ohio going? So it's short-sighted to say we're going to open up and the rest of the country is going to stay down because you have to have the parts. So we're going to tighten up this supply chain. So this is just kind of give you an idea today, this long 16-year plutonian transit that started in 2008, it's going to go to 2024. So you got the rest of this year, 21, 22, and 23. And so you might as well understand that this is going to lead to a much, much better way we govern, the way we respect the individual, and how we work together as a group. So it actually has a very good upside, but that's for another day. So we stay well, stay safe, keep your distance, don't be stupid, and we'll talk again. Thank you, and if you need to reach me, gailminogue.com. I have a book, Divine Design. Remember, you can always do a private consultation with me on your own blueprint. Thanks for listening.